And here we are again. Got the next one ready to go. So let me find my chat here real quick. It seems to have left me. There we go. Must have missed this one, Tim. Yeah, you did miss getting into this when you were on vacation. I suppose that was why. Yo, man, Joe. Hey, how you guys doing? Ready to get going on the next roll here. Let's see what I got here. Let me bring everything back into place. Please stand by while I get my life back in focus. There we go. Don't blame you, Tim. They're as fun to do as they are to open, and I'm not going to get any coins out of this roll, but I love opening them anyway. This one's a Fed Reserve Bank of Chicago, Illinois, 1954 Denver. Yeah, let me pop it open and see what's inside. Hey, Wade, and Thomas, and Brian. I would certainly hope we could find something cool out of here. This is going to be a test. Looking for that big 1954 D RPM, D over D over D RPM number 1. Also would love to find a couple of 1954 double dies. 1954 D double dies are, well, they're kind of short in number. There's only 3 or 4 of them, but they're pretty interesting anyway. Let's say that. There's one that has doubling on the stem of the first T of trust. There's another one that has a doubled eyelid. And then a couple of other ones that have to do with the 4 and the date. No known double die reverses for 1954D. Nothing listed with any of the organizations. Yeah, let me scoot this forward just a little bit so we can flip our first flip down. And Farm Dog. Farm Dog will get the first coin in the roll. And the first coin in the roll right here is... Dun, dun, dun. Let me see. Okay, there we go. Found it. It's an RPM. This is an RPM. You can see a split on the upper serif. You can see the extra vertical line in the inside of the mint mark. Let me zoom in and get the lighting right. And come on, focus. There we go. There we go. We got ourselves a nice little RPM. Very first coin in the roll. Hey, Jeff, DN, Stonecutter. All right, then. Let's take a look for markers on this particular die. Get looking around. You see that shadow doubling on the lower part of the 4? Like all this stuff right here. That's just shadow doubling. That's your very typical braided die doubling. Shows up on most very late die state dies of that era. There's a big die crack. There's a system of big die cracks running right across the head. Let me bring my light up a little bit. That's what's doing that. The camera is getting funky on me because of my lighting. I have to get the light a little bit closer to the subject when I go in close. So there's our big marker for this one. We've got a die crack around the back of the ear that goes up and across the forehead to above the eye, and another one in the hair up above it. So we got 2 really big die cracks right on the head. We got a few other little marks on this, but so we got ourselves a nice little RPM here. Hello, John. Farm Dog. That's your coin there, by the way, Farm Dog. In case you didn't notice. All right, coin number 2 now. Moving on to coin number 2. We're going to go to quads for coin number 2. Let's take a look and see what we find on that one. Let's see here. Well, it's not the same die. So we'll keep looking around. We've got a doubled eyelid to be looking for. We've got doubling in trust to be looking for. Where we're going to see the doubling on trust is right on that vertical stem right in this area of the first T of trust. And that's where we would find that. Let's look over at Liberty and see if there's anything doubled on the Liberty, and I don't see anything there. Take a really quick look at the reverse on this and see if there's anything to be noted on the reverse. Got nothing going on there. Yeah, one of the things that I talk to people about on a pretty regular basis is they'll ask me, well, what should I be looking for on a 1954 Lincoln cent? I said, well, why don't you look for anything that's outside of the normal, because we don't know everything about them. Here's one for Donna. No double die reverse is known for 1954D does not mean that double die reverses cannot exist on 1954D. Just means we don't know about the ones that do exist, if any. I think that's another RPM. Looks like that might be another RPM. Let me get it focused in here real quick. See what I can find. Hey, Hoop. Hoop's in the house. Let me get this focused in here on the mint mark area. I'm going to bring my light back down so we can see it. I think it is another RPM. Bring this around this way. Yep. Another RPM. I think that's another example of the same die, actually. If I'm not mistaken, I think that is the same die. Let's back out and see if we see our die cracks on the head. If we see our die cracks on the head, then that means we can be pretty sure we're looking at the same die again. And what do you know? We got the same die cracks on the head, so that's probably the same die we just looked at. Hello, Wanda. Real simple. Shut it off and listen to my show. All right, so that's coin number 3. We got ourselves another one of the RPMs. We're going to go with coin number 4 to Yeoman. Yeoman Gull. Get this focused in here just a little bit. Just a little bit of effort. There we go. Hey, CVS. Back for more, I see. Come on, Scope. Get that camera to work right. We got another set of the same die cracks. Let's check again and make sure that this is another one of those RPMs. Flip it around this way. See, I don't see an RPM here, but I do see the same die cracks. Is there a shoulder die crack? Yes, there is. A very heavy one, actually. Just one of the listed RPMs, yo man? Now let me pull this off and answer a more burning question. Is it the same die as the other 2 coins we've already looked at? This is coin number 2 here. Hey, get into the scope. There we go. And it does not have... So I don't think it has a die crack. No. This one doesn't have a die crack on the shoulder, but did appear to have the same die cracks on the head. Okay, let's see. We're curved down into 1, 2, 3 spokes on the eyebrow. On curl 1 above the ear. So let's see what we've got here. Aha, we're different. It's a different die crack. Not the same die crack. Looking for a higher position crack? Crack on the shoulder? I don't know. I don't think this is an RPM. This one doesn't spell RPM out to me real well. And it is a different die. This one's got a big die crack on the shoulder. The other doesn't have. So I think what I'm going to do is just move on, because I don't really see anything on this particular die. The reverse die appears to be a very late die state. A few little spots here and there. So we're going to call this one a normal coin. That one goes to Yeoman. It's coin number 4. Notice how I've color-coded my holders. This is the red roll. Red roll, come on, red roll. There we go. That's CRH 221. Maybe if I held it this way. There we go. That's red. And number 5. Now coin number 5 goes to Chase. Let's take a look at coin number 5 and see what we find there. This one does appear to be an RPM. It is the same as our other coins that we've found so far. Have a split in the lower, split in the upper, and a split on the inside of the upper part of the vertical bar. So we know that's paired with a reverse die that has no doubling on it. And so that's coin number 5. Another RPM. It's another RPM rich roll here, folks. Batting 1,000 so far today. Now coin number 6 goes to Farm Dog again. Coin number 1, now coin number 6 to Farm Dog. Let's take a look and see what we got here. Well, it appears to not be an RPM. So is it one with the big die crack on the shoulder? Yes, it is. It's one of the ones with the big die crack on the shoulder. That is not an RPM. And there's our crack above the head. Looks like lightning going from the eyebrow going back toward the back of his head, and the other one was more pointed toward the front. So 2 completely different die scratches and die cracks in the same basic area. So this one's going to be the same as the second die we found in this roll. And so far I think we've only found 2 different dies in the roll. We're on coin number 6, moving on to coin number 7 now. And coin number 7 will go to Mike Birchman. And for Mike Birchman we have, well, this one's not an RPM. It does not appear to be the same die as the high die crack, and it's not an RPM. So let's look for the doubling. One of the double dies, I'm just going to point here. One of the double dies has a big furrow of a top of a 4 coming up off the top of the regular 4. And then the other listed double die has an extra crosslet over here underneath on the 4. Those are your 2 different double dies that involve the 4 of the date that we know of. Now on each of these new dies, I'm going to be checking that T very carefully and checking the I very carefully because we know about double dies in both of those places. However, we don't know much of anything about any double dies in and around Liberty. So if we found one of those, that would definitely be a new one. This will be the last reveal I'll be able to get to this evening. I was thinking maybe I'd do another one at 11. I just don't think I got the power for it. Part of the issue that I've had over this past week in getting these reveals scheduled and done is that I am working toward getting a large pile of coins mailed off to you guys. Because except for the die varieties, all the reveals that we've had up to number 219 are finished. So I've pulled out all the normal coins. I've separated them from the die varieties. Die varieties are still in a box to be identified. And all the other coins are coming home to you, along with the auctions that we've had over the last week to 2 weeks. So all of that is coming to you. I've got rolls for a lot of people. I've got singles for a lot of people. And I've got a lot of reveal coins. All right, there's another one of those. So we know that doesn't have anything on it. I know, I'm not supposed to yawn. You're also not supposed to have the volume turned up so loud you can hear such things as just my mouth opening. But it's 9:26 in the evening. Given that it's 9:26 in the evening, it is way past my exposure time to the public. Let's just call it that. Hey, Party Pickle. And stop the yawning. No more yawning, I promise. I'll turn my head. You won't notice it. See, did you notice that? Now I'm playing with you. All right, what do we have here? I think this is a different die altogether. It is... No, it's the same die that we've been dealing with. It's another one of our RPMs. You can see the split in the upper serif very easily, and there is a split in the lower serif. Let's Keep looking around just to be sure we don't miss anything else. Looking at the rest of the obverse. Now looking at the reverse. Yawning is contagious. Even talking about it is contagious. That's right. I'll tell you what, if we had a vaccine for yawning, there you go, right? I hear people yawn because their brain is not getting enough oxygen. I don't know if there's any truth to that. Party pickle, not that I can remember, sir. I did pull over half the roll of 1960D were RPMs. And so far, half of these have been RPMs. So maybe we'll get lucky. Here's one for Bill Betts. Let's see what Bill Betts gets. I've seen this particular die, the 3 big concentric die scratches out in front of the chin. I've seen that, which means that this is not an RPM. Not an RPM and probably not a double die, because if I've already seen this, then that means I would have noticed the double die that was there, and it's not there. So, here we move on to the next. Was Colin back? I don't see. Oh, there is Colin. Okay. Hey, how you doing, buddy? Nova Scotia is back. That's right. Isn't that is where Oak Island is? Nova Scotia. I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah, because it's south of Halifax. All right, Akram Khatib is next. And Akram gets a normal coin, unfortunately. Check here and see if there's anything on the I or on the T of trust. Looking diligently to find anything of merit, anything of note for my fellow collectors. Are they ever going to find anything on that island? They have found things on that island. Just because it's not gold or silver doesn't mean there's not evidence of commercial trade or something else going on. I need to get this stupid coin underneath the... There we go. Underneath the scope. Finally got that. See, I'm sitting beside my scope, so it's a little bit difficult for me to see what I'm doing since I'm not sitting in front of it. And I'm not sitting in front of it because, well, then I wouldn't be able to talk to you guys. And I want to be able to talk to you guys. So I have to give somewhere. Now, they found a leg cross on that island that belonged to the 1600s, I think. Let's put it this way. They are working toward proving that the Americas were definitely not discovered by Christopher Columbus. And we're also working on proving that Canada, or what we know of as Canada now, was found prior to any part of what we now know as the United States, except by the people that we call Native Americans, who found them tens of thousands of years prior to the Europeans. So, what is discovered, actually? See what I'm saying? Can you actually discover something where someone already lives? I don't know. Just because they don't communicate with you doesn't mean they didn't know it was there. Hey, Cadillac Joe. Where you from, brother? Mike Birchman gets the next one. Mike Birchman gets this 1954D Lincoln cent. And it does not have any doubling on the mint mark. Hey, so I told you last time I was here, I told you that this hour would be Ask Chuck a Question hour. If you guys have a question to ask, go ahead and ask it. I'll prioritize them and answer them as I can get to them. Any questions about coins? Any questions about coin collecting in general? Any questions about life? And no, Brian Allen, you are not eligible to ask. Unless you're not going to be smart about it. New to collecting and hunting. Well, Cadillac Joe, we need to get you all registered up and everything so you're a member of the family. I'll go ahead and get you, if I can find it. Here we go. I'll get you modded in so your name will turn blue, and that means that we know you're not a troll. What was this, Wade? Someone showing up at my house and taking over ownership. Ain't a party without a pickle. There we go. This next one goes to Quads. And Quads.com gets this coin. And this one appears to be... yeah, it's going to have that big crack on the shoulder. It's not going to have anything on it. Yep, except that big crack on the shoulder. Unfortunately, we run into a little bit of spot problems on this particular roll, I do believe. East Coast, suburbs of Philly. You're a couple hundred miles north, maybe about 400 miles north of me. I'm in the low country of North Carolina. About halfway between Raleigh and Wilmington. I have not been here very long. I do not hail from this area. However, my family does. That's one of the interesting things. I guess I'll just tell you. I think I'll just tell you guys a little bit, and then we can just move on from there. I know that some of you guys who've been around a long time already know this story, so please have a little patience with me as I tell our newer guests about where I live. Now, the area where I live is in the lower country of North Carolina. It's not in the hills or mountains. I live at about 300 feet above sea level in a place called Smithfield. Now, Smithfield, North Carolina is a relatively small town of about 20,000 people. And I am not from here. This is not my natural home. However, here's a very interesting story. My grandmother on my father's side, so my father's mother, grew up right here, 7 miles from where I live. And for no other reason than taking a job, my wife taking a job, did we move here. There we go. There's another one of our RPMs. This one should have our little network of die cracks on the head, as it does. And nothing on the shoulder. There we go. Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. I've had it for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years now. Anyhow, my grandmother was born and raised in North Carolina. I knew that all the way through when I was growing up. My father was actually born in North Carolina, a little town called Fort Oaks. And my great-grandfather was born here, as was my great-grandmother. My great-great-grandfather was born here. And my 3 great-grandfather was known to have a cabin not very far away from here during the Civil War and lived just on the outskirts of the area where the battle took place. So we're going back 160, 170 years that my family, my father's maternal family, has been here. I grew up having only been to North Carolina one time in my entire life as a child. I came here and visited my great-grandfather before he died in 1973. I had not been back to North Carolina since then, till my wife and I moved here. When we moved here, we chose a place in Cary, which is the town up northwest of here anyway. We're close to where her office was, just so that we could get used to the area. We rented a house in a little town called Morrisville. There's another one. Some of you people may remember my P.O. box in Morrisville, North Carolina. That's while I lived in that area. As soon as we moved in up there, we knew we were going to stick in the area pretty lengthy period of time, I'm sure. So we started looking around for a place to buy. And through a period of months, we finally found this little place in Smithfield, North Carolina. Well, we decided to buy. Then I started kind of looking things up and looking around and stuff about my family. and found out that every day I had been going to my new house from my old house to move stuff in, I was driving within 75 feet of my great-grandfather and great-grandmother's grave. You heard it, 75 feet. You can look over from the road and see their gravestone. And I had no idea they were buried there. What am I strike twoing on, yo, man? Did I not get somebody's name out there? Eat in Liberty, crack. I'll pay better attention next time. But anyhow, this little place where I live, known as Smithfield, is in the Clayton area. Clayton is just north of here. My father was born on Rural Route 1 Clayton, which was in Four Oaks. And that is about 7 miles from my house. So my father was born about 7 miles away from here. My grandmother was born about 7 miles away. Did we get an RPM there or not? I can't remember now. I don't think we did. Let me check here real quick. Sometimes I have to prove I'm senile. Not an RPM. Okay. But anyway, that's a little more about me and where I live. There's a place called the Piedmont. Kind of wish I had lived in the Piedmont because that just sounds cool. Okay, this is another one of our RPMs, but it's been beat to hell, unfortunately. This one's going to Adam Chambers. All right, we'll give Adam his RPM here. Now, my maternal family, my mother's family, is also known to have come from North Carolina back in the day, North Carolina and Georgia. And in 1830, there was a certain act signed by President Andrew Jackson, our seventh president, Old Hickory, which outlawed the native people of the land from their land and made them take what's known as the Trail of Tears. My four greats-grandfather, maybe it was 4 or 5 greats-grandfather, took that Trail of Tears and died along that trail, but his daughter continued the trail and became the, 4 greats-grandmother that ended up giving birth to children who had children who had children who ended up being my grandmother. The 4 looks fat. And so I am a descendant in part of the Cherokee tribe. Yeah, it does have a little thingy on the outside edge of it, but the actual 4 itself doesn't look fat. But that little thing hanging off the edge I thought was just a flake of metal, and it probably is, but we'll look anyway. Yeah, just a little flake where the 4 kind of split open. So on my maternal side, I am just a wee bit Cherokee. On my father's side is all English, I guess, English-Irish immigrants to Virginia back in the 1760s, 1770s. I believe that may have been a result from a redcoat soldier, but we are not sure. Adam Chambers. But that's where my family in the United States, or what was to become the United States, began. It was between the Cherokees in the North Carolina, Georgia area and English settlers in Virginia. I bored you to death with my family history. I'm going to go through every single generation and tell you about everyone? No, you don't. Guaranteed, you don't. If you're not asleep yet, you will be by the time I get done with that story. Party Pickle, yes. 1996 D. It's owned by Robert Adams, and he showed me a picture of it. The cut is just below the bottom of the VDB. That is very interesting. I had not known that that had existed. I'm not sure that I have coins from that particular die, but I told him one of these days I'd get into them and check. I have 3 or 4 different dies of the 96 D lathe lines. Have I been to the Unto These Hills outdoor drama in Cherokee? No, I have not, John. I have not. I've been to Cherokee, doing a little bit of family research. I actually went to Cherokee, and then I also went to Tahlequah, Oklahoma, to do family research and found my family on the Dawes list. Okay, this one's not an RPM. The last time I was in Cherokee was just kind of a drive-in, drive-out type thing. And now you know. Well, you know. I'm going to get myself into trouble twice in one night doing the same thing. Here we go, Party Pickle. Pick it up, big guy. Here's your coin. Let's see what we got. Well, it looks like it's an RPM. Well, it could be an RPM anyway. Let's see if it's the same one we've been looking at. Yep, I think it is. We've got, I believe, 2 different dies we're looking at. We've got this one plus another one. This is one of them, although this coin is not in the best condition. None of these coins are. They're all kind of spotty. I can imagine how Cherokee's got to be good trout fishing. You got a whole lot of running brooks and streams there with cold water. And that's what they need. So there's a funny story about Cherokee. On the last trip that I took through Cherokee, I had come up from Florida. And so I was basically a sealander, being that I was from like 15 feet above sea level and had been there for a decade. We went to Cherokee, had lunch, and decided to go up to Klingman's Dome, take a look around up there. Well, we got up there, and we just happened to decide to park and walk to the very top of the mountain. I mean, how hard could that be, right? I figured there was a trail going up there, so just about anybody could do it. Boy, was I wrong. Shows you what being in low elevation can do to you. I got up there, and I started climbing up to the top of the mountain. And there were 80-year-old people walking with walkers going faster than we could. Oh, my God, it was horrible. I thought I was going to have to be airlifted off that damn mountain. We got up to the top, and it was like by the time we got to the top, we just really weren't that interested in looking around. Once we got up there, it was just a matter of, okay, well, we've done it. Let's go back down. 58D, good condition 2 days ago and smaller than a Roosevelt. It's copper and doesn't appear to be a washer coin. It's slightly elliptical. I'm thinking possible foreign planchet. Smaller than a Roosevelt. Is the design shrunk smaller, or is the actual just the coin itself smaller? Because it sounds like what you have could be an elliptical clip. Jeff, weighing it's not going to do a whole lot of good if it's elliptical. If it's elliptical, it's going to be missing metal because basically it's a punch out from the punch process that was not supposed to be minted into a coin. It was supposed to be discarded. I got to check this coin again because I can't remember what I said about it. Get telling my stories and I can't remember anything. Not an RPM. Okay. But yeah, Klingman's Dome ended up being like the antecedent of fun for me. We got back to the car and we were kind of huffing and puffing. I had to buy some of that $4 a bottle of water up there. We were huffing and puffing coming back down the mountain. We huffing and puffing getting to the car. We got to the car. And what do you know? But we met up with one of my wife's cousins that she hadn't seen in a good 25, 30 years. Isn't it weird how you run into people you know like that? It's like here you are about to die on the top of a mountain and you meet up with family you haven't seen in years. That was interesting. I had never met them. I haven't known my wife for 20 years yet. Yeah, I don't think having a scale is going to be important. Why don't you take a picture of it and email it to me, Cadillac? I'll give you my email address. As soon as I can type. Got to have my... There's my email address, Cadillac. You can send me an email with a couple of pictures of what you got, and I'll let you know what you got. I can't really tell just by listening to the description because there's so many different things it could be that I have to be able to see. Here's one for Coinzilla. What do we have for Coinzilla? Looks like another non-RPM. Not an RPM coin. It does have a few little black spots. Oh, this is one of those ones got the big crack on the shoulder. Right there. Okay. Got another, not an RPM, not a double die. Another thing that you newer people to my stream have to understand is that I'm using a microscope at like 50, 60 times normal size. So you guys can see all the little tiny details on the coin. In addition to being able to see all the little tiny details, you're going to be able to see all the little tiny flaws too. So if you take any one of these coins and you look at it just to grade it, it's going to turn out to be a choice to gem uncirculated coin. However, when you look at it under a microscope, you're going to see every tiny little flaw that coin has. Given that you're going to see all those little tiny flaws, the coin's going to look like hell underneath my microscope. But when you get it there at home, you'll notice how much prettier it is than you thought it was when you saw it in the stream. Guaranteed. So did we get any questions for me? Because I didn't see them if we did. Somebody just tell me yes or no that we did or did not get questions for me. If I don't have any questions, I'm not offended. But if you want to ask questions of me, and now's your chance. I'm sitting down. You've got my undivided attention, which isn't very common. My wife doesn't get this much undivided attention from me. Facts. What about the facts? Rim is gone on the obverse, but it's slightly 30% on the reverse. That just sounds different. It just sounds kind of strange. What facts do you want, Cadillac Joe? I am a purveyor of fact. Cherry Picker's Guide. Well, you know, those are not common. I'm sure you understand that. They haven't printed a new edition of that in a couple of years now. And the ones that were out there, man, did they go quick. I don't know where any are for sale. And I would imagine probably eBay is one of the only places you're going to be able to go to find one, and it's not going to be cheap at all. Unfortunately. Am I okay with pineapple on pizza? No. I think pineapple belongs in desserts. Pineapple is great cold, all by itself, crushed, whole or in slices. But pizza should be left for things that need to be cooked to taste good. Things like pepperoni and meat, cheese, olives. But definitely not pineapple. Do I hunt Canadian rolls? Generally, no. I don't hunt Canadian rolls. I do buy and sell Canadian coins when they come around, but I don't necessarily hunt for them. A gentleman offered a roll of the 1967 Centennial cents, the ones with the dove on them. He offered me an original bank-wrapped roll of one of those, and I'm considering taking it just because I think it'll be a good item to put up for the auction. Here's one for Thomas T2. Haven't called him T2 in a while. There's one of our RPMs. You can see the split in the upper serif, and if I turned it over, you could see the split in the lower serif. I'm noticing them more because of the die scratches right above the 9 and the date. And if you come up here, you're going to see that network of scratches, or cracks, a network of cracks up there. Early to bed. Good night, Wade Reynolds. You have a great night, sir. I'll talk to you next time we have a chance. No grilled pineapple here. Not for me. Not going to do it. Aha. Facts. Got it. Understood. Got another RPM right here. And going on to coin number 32. Take a look at that one for Stonecutter. Let's see what Stonecutter has. Well, this is not an RPM. Just for those of you who may be skeptics about this entire grade thing that I'm talking about, well, as soon as we get finished with this coin, I want you to look at the coin. See how ugly it looks under here? Because these do look indeed quite ugly. I want to show you the same coin. Just move it straight over to the dyno and flip over to the dyno and show it to you under there. If I even have... Well, I don't have the dyno, I don't think. Yeah, I do. Got the dyno right there. See, it's not that bad a looking a coin. It's got nice luster and everything on it. The spots are noticeable. They're not going to be going away. I mean, it's not like they're invisible or anything. They're just not as overpowering as they may appear in the beginning. Still a nice uncirculated coin. So there you go. This is the microscope I used to use right here. I used to use this one to do the coin roll hunt. Now I use my other microscope because it's just a lot better. So there's Stonecutter's coin. It's got little freckles on it. That's correct. That's just due to a matter of having been stored for many years in conditions that were not necessarily 100% for the coins, meaning cold and dry. All right, here we go. Next coin goes to Joe McBride. What does Joe McBride get? And there's no RPM on this one. No doubled I. No doubling in the T of trust. And no doubled L in liberty. So we've got a normal coin there. We're just going to move on that one. Coin number 34. Coin number 34 goes to DN. And this one is an RPM. Any other questions? No questions? No further questions, Your Honor. This is going to be our first die for the roll, where we found, well, I think it was on coin number 1. I think we found the first RPM. This one's going to be for DN. DN. Yay. Now coin number 35 goes to Chase Carlisle. Mr. Carlisle's coin looks just like this right here. A little bit less spotty than a few of the others have been. And I do not see an RPM here. I may catch it on the redo. Every single roll that I go through here, I look back through it again to be sure I haven't missed anything. Because looking on a TV screen with a camera from a microscope is not nearly as good as looking through the microscope itself. Seeing everything in 3 dimensions and being able to pull anything out that could be of an ordinary appearance, abnormal appearance. And those are the things we pull out. Here's Jeff Dunn. Jeff Dunn, coin number 36. And coin number 36 turns out to be... It looks like it may be a little minor RPM, but I'm thinking not now that I'm looking at it again. So yeah, probably not an RPM. Take a look around. Looks like a relatively new, different die. Anyway. Randy, any questions for me regarding numismatics or regarding anything else that you happen to want to ask a question about that requires some insight or perhaps a longer than one word response. Yes, Randy, it is live. I am in your head. You are asleep, and I am talking to you. And all of these other profiles talking to you now are also me. They just don't know it. So, Randy, I'm always watching you. Let's see. Subhash Sugar. Subhash Sagar. Sounds like an Indian name. I have this 1954 double die date and D mint mark in the back of and DY in the back of Lincoln photo. What you have sounds to me like it's probably machine doubling. If it's all flattened out, it's probably just where the die was loose when the coin was struck. That does happen quite frequently on occasion. And you end up with a little bit of light doubling, as in chatter, where the design was basically slid across or raked on or restruck the coin after it was already struck. It gives you a little bit of doubling on the sides of the different design elements. Let's see, Adam Connor. Chuck, are you looking to write any new books? Maybe, but probably not. It may happen. I'm in talks with somebody now about the possibility of co-authoring a book with them. Look at there. It looks like we may have a double die here. May have a double die here on the 4. If you look, there's secondary going all the way down the top left part of the 4 on this coin. This one goes to quads. See that right there? Talking about all this stuff right here. Looks like hub doubling to me. All right. So I'm going to set this to the side too and see if it happens to be that double die I think I'm seeing. And we'll watch the other coins coming off the roll for that. Let's keep looking around here and see if we keep that up. Any other doubling, anything else, anywhere on this coin. But Adam, I can't really release a whole lot of information with regard to the one that I am talking about co-authoring yet, because we haven't really done anything regarding any deals of any kind that I could release to the public. So for now, I just have to stay shut about it. But to let you know that I am kind of talking about doing an additional book. Let's see. Time Traveler's Coin Exchange. Do you have any graded PCGS proof of Lincolns from the teens for sale in the future? My Magic 8 Ball says not likely. I don't have any teen proof coins at present, and it isn't very likely that I'll be buying any anytime soon. Don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but I do like to be truthful about everything I say. Re-releasing old books? What are we talking about, Wanda? We talking about the booklets that I've printed in the past? I will eventually get to making more of those. But it does take time and a certain amount of expense to actually make them, so I got to find that first. But I will be looking into doing that. I actually have another edition of the shortlist that I was planning on doing 2 years ago. I haven't made it to it yet, but I'm still working on that idea. Randy, yes, you did miss the 1960D reveal. I did it around 7:30 this evening. This is my second reveal for the evening. And Cadillac Joe, tips regarding RPMs, locating RPMs and finding them. One of the best tips that I can give you is to go on to any one of 3 websites That primarily being either VarietyVista.com or DoubledDie.com or CopperCoins.com, and take a good look through the catalog listings there at different RPMs. And you'll notice pretty quickly that there are a number of really easily visible RPMs that you could be looking for. Now, if you go through your collection looking for those, you will probably find a few of them and get yourself acclimated to the idea of looking for a doubled mint mark. As you continue to go through your collection and find more of these doubled mint marks, you'll begin to see some of the ones that are less, let's say, savory, the ones that are less visible. Then you will indeed be an RPM hunter with a full-fledged license in dealing in RPMs. And yes, it does require a license. That license requires that you do at least 40 hours of study, go through a few thousand coins, have found an RPM of your own, and then your next box of Wheaties will have that license right on the inside. Oh, Donna, sorry, I'm not checking the backs of all of them, but I can certainly go back and check the back of your coin. We will certainly do that. This is Donna's coin. This is the back of coin number 39, which went to Donna. Donna Mac. Not seeing anything there, unfortunately. Yeah, you're right. Probably nothing there anyway. There are no double die reverses known for 1954 D Lincoln cents. In fact, most of the Lincolns in the 50s, there are no double die reverses known for them except for the proofs. There are 2 double die reverses known for 1954 proof Lincoln cents, but not for the business strike coins, which is what we're looking through here now. Next one goes to Wanda. It's coin number 41. Coin number 41 is, it does look like it could be a minor RPM. It's like a minor split upper serif RPM. We'll have to take a better look at this one later. See what we do or don't have. I don't see any other doubling on the coin, so I'm going to move us forward. Check out the reverse of this one real quick, just because I happen to be in the habit now, because someone warned me that I shouldn't skip the reverses. Okay. Question from Thomas. Wait a minute, let me go back up and see. See if I missed any other questions. But Cadillac Joe, I'm here to help you anytime you need the help. Just send me an email, cd@coppercoins.com. Let's see. I'm looking. Hang on just a minute. Okay. So Thomas asks, what happens if you have a definite RPM but can't identify markers? What's the next step? Well, the very next step would be something that mostly only the more pro people have, or people who have a lot of experience with doing stuff like what I'm doing here, attributing coins and taking micro shots of coins and stuff like that. But that's to take a photograph of the coin in question and compare it to a photograph that's already been published on a website or out of a book. You can scan it out of a book. But anyhow, you use a computer program like Photoshop or GIMP or something similar to that to find whether the position of the mint mark is exactly the same between your coin and a suspected listing where the markers don't match. You're most likely generally going to find that the exact position of the mint mark does not match, which means you cannot have the same die. Mint marks never move once they're placed into the die, which is before they actually start minting any coins. Mint marks never move. So that's your number one marker for any repunch mint mark, is that the mint mark has to be in the exact same spot as on a listing that you think it matches. Another way of dealing with it, of course, would be to get good marker photos and email those to any one of the attributors, who would be mostly welcome to the email and mostly welcome to the idea of having good, sharp images they can actually see and helping you with your coin. If you take fuzzy images or low light images or can't get the camera focused or something like that, it's not going to be your gig to be able to do this. Now we have what looks like a RPM and a minor double die on the 4. So this could match the other coin that I saw. It looked like it had a minor double die on the 4. So I'm going to have to go back through this roll again, of course, and make sure that I flag and pick out anything else that matches these dies. But we got another one of those. This one goes to Stonecutter. So Mr. Dowdle will eventually get his. A little backed up on actually doing these coins, processing the coins that have double dies and repunchment marks on them, so it may take a week to 2 weeks to get these. All right, now we got coin number 45. Coin number 45 for Doug Reese. But if you have, see, another thing, I mean, like Thomas, the question that you gave me is kind of a loaded question because, oh, look, there's a nice die clash right there. You can see part of the C of cent on the reverse of the coin right above the Y of liberty there. That's what that is. That's a die clash. As is this thing over here in the throat that you can often see like a straight line inside the throat. Well, this one doesn't have it. But usually you could see a straight line in the throat there. But another thing is if you're forensically minded and if you've got an analytical brain, you can think through things, you can see which coin has an earlier die state than the other. And if you find any markers like a die crack on the earlier die state coin, and that die crack is not also on the later die state coin, knowing that die cracks are not something that can be repaired on a die, then you know very well you don't have the same die. Because permanent marks that are placed on something, when you crack concrete, you never put it back together without noticing. And so let's say that a crack is something you can't necessarily fix. Once you crack a concrete block, no matter how much longer that block lasts, you can always find that crack again. That's kind of how the dies work. We don't repair dies after they're placed into the press to be making coins. That just isn't something that happens. There's coin number 46. Coinzilla. There's Coinzilla's coin. What do we have here? Looks like nothing on this one. Unfortunately. So if you start using analytics and figuring out your markers and what markers you've got, one coin to the next coin, and do you have a marker that couldn't exist on that one, then it isn't the same die, that sort of thing, you can kind of start to round things down. The much easier way of handling something like that is to pay the attribution fee to one of the guys who are doing attributions now and send the coin to them and ask them to do all that work for you and ask them to do all that comparison work, and they'd be happy to. Right now I can't accept attributions because I'm so far behind on everything else I'm doing. There's no way I could ever get to a package of somebody's coins within, say, a 6-week period of time, and that would just be beyond where I would want to go in holding other people's coins. Good night, Time Travelers Coin Exchange. I appreciate you showing up. I appreciate every time you come around. You have a great night. John, type of microscope I'm using. I don't know the exact model of microscope that I'm using right now, but it is from Amscope. It is a 7.5 to 35x, or actually 0.7 to 3.5x with eyepieces that make it 7.5 to 35x. I use 10x eyepieces. It's another one of those doubles, doubling on the 4. Yo, man, that's part of the good part and the bad part about doing RPMs. They can be very frustrating. Probably time to step away for, a few days or a week. Come back and regroup. I've done that before. Sometimes the RPMs that you're finding are not listed anywhere, and for that reason you can't find them. That would be something that you would eventually you would put into a book or a tube or a holder or something and eventually get them sent in to somebody to look at. Cadillac Joe. I've been in Lincoln Cents since 1975. I've been collecting, really seriously collecting, hunting for die varieties since about 1992, 93. I actually started getting my first books on the stuff, like the John Wexler book, Lincoln Cent Doubled, the Lincoln Cent Doubled Die. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The Lincoln Cent Doubled Die. I bought that book in 1984. I got the RPM book in 1985. So that's when I really started looking at these things. I started writing about coins and deciding I finally had enough information that I thought I could contribute to the world of Lincoln Cents in 1997. And that's when I started the website that I called at the time Lincoln Log, which eventually became Copper Coins. And Copper Coins was born in 1999, October of 99. That was a marriage of work between myself and another gentleman who has since parted ways with Copper Coins. He did the old copper, and I did the Lincoln Cent information. And since then, Copper Coins has belonged to me. I've been in... Ooh, wonder if this will show up in here. The color of this toning is just beautiful. It's a toned woody on the end. This is coin number 50. It's the ender coin. It goes to John L. And there you go. That's it for that roll. We're done. I'm going to go ahead and continue chatting with you guys. We got a rather large pile of what appears to be normal Lincoln Cents here, but I'm going to have to go back through them again. But this is what I'm showing as normal. And then our die varieties appear to be these right here. And they are coins numbered 43, 38, 34, 31, 24, 20, 18, 16, 9, 5, 3, and 1. So that's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. 13, I'm sorry, 13. So there we go. All right, so about die states. Well, John, we're going to have to talk about die states again at some point because I've got something new coming on the rise that we're going to be talking about. Let's see, 1985, I was a junior in high school. So I graduated in 1986, went in the military. I started hunting rolls, well, a lot more feverishly, I guess, once the 1995 double die was discovered and announced. And that was in 95 when I was about 23 years old. And so it was around that time that I actually really started looking hard. And I published Copper Coins in 99. And since then, it's pretty much been history. I've bought and sold Lincoln Cents on a more or less full-time scale for 20 years now. Randy, you say one of your coins was a plate coin, and on Copper Coins it says listing on everything is unknown. So does that mean you could send it to Wexler to be attributed and get an RPM number? Wexler would probably give you an RPM number on anything that I would give you an RPM number on, but if you give me the number itself, I'll be able to tell you what's going on with it. Probably what happened is it was photographed and put into the backlog of things that need to be put on the website and just has not yet been put on the website. Cullen Whedon, the copper content of a U.S. penny. Okay, there have been a few different ones. So here's right off the top of my head. From the beginning of the 1 cent coin of the United States in 1793 up until the end of the large cent in 1857, they were 100% copper. The small cent started in 1856 with the Flying Eagle cent and went through 1864 made of copper nickel. I don't know the percentages, but they were copper and nickel. It was an alloy of copper and nickel. 1864, they changed over to what's known as French bronze. It has a 95% copper content with a 5% tin and 5% zinc content. So it was 95% copper. That lasted all the way up until 1962, save 1 year. The 1 year was 1943, when they eliminated all copper from Lincoln cents and went with a pure steel core and a zinc plating. That was 1943 only, although errors have been found where they are on 1944 coins. But the 1944 through 1947 coins were made of brass, more or less brass, that had trace amounts of whatever went off in military shells, basically during the war. Artillery shells, naval battleship shells. They were all melted down to strips to make coins and punched out, and they made Lincoln cents from those strips from 1944 to 1947. Those coins often tone a more orange color because of the sulfur in the content of the metal. 1948, they went strictly back to the French bronze, which was, again, 95% copper and 5% tin and 5% zinc. That lasted until 1962. 1962, they changed the composition again. They took the tin out of the composition and made it, did I say 95, 5, and 5? I meant to say 95, 2.5, and 2.5. Sorry. You can't have 105% of anything. It's 95% copper, 2.5% tin, 2.5% zinc. In 1962, they took the tin out and just went to a 5% zinc, and that's brass. So in late 1962 through 1982, they were only made out of a 5% zinc and 95% copper alloy. 1982, they changed over to being a 100% zinc core that was plated in 100% copper. So they're copper-plated zinc coins. That's late 1982 all the way up until today. So those are your compositions for Lincoln cents. Brought to you by Neutrogena. No. The copper content of a U.S. penny for most of the years they were made was 95%. Said it best I name this name again. Time to step away. Aha. Okay. Found any of the major transitional errors while roll hunting? Yes, Party Pickle, I have. I don't know how major they have to be for you to consider them major, but while we're talking about the wide AMs and close AMs, I have found it was a roll of 2,000 that 40 out of the 50 coins were the wide AMs. I also found a handful of the 98s and change. I found a handful of the 2000s and change. I've yet to find the 99, and I've yet to find any of the others, the 92, 88, those. With regard to proofs, they have the 1998S and 1999S in the close AM version, and I was the person who sold the very first 1998 proof set with one of those errors in it. It was sold in a private sale from a coin show where a dealer had it on display. His daughter had found it. I got the price that they wanted for it, and I turned around and called a friend, and the friend wanted to buy it, and so I bought it for the friend, and I basically, I guess, brokered the first sale of one of those 98 close AM proof cents. The 99 close AM proof cent, I found a few of those. I have probably 2 or 3 sets of them around here somewhere. I've not found any of them separate, as in like in a roll or like in dealer stock in their book where they're selling proof pennies or something. I've not found any of those that way. I'm hoping that maybe eventually someday I will, but I haven't yet. You're very welcome, Colin. I do everything I can for everybody to teach them what they need to know about collecting coins. Party Pickle, I've never found any of the transitional metals, especially the 83 copper or the 44 steel. Joe, the 1988, we're not talking about wide or close AM because they're all wide AM. That's part of the problem that PCGS put on things when they started calling the 1998 transitionals a wide AM design. Here's the issue. 1988 was supposed to be on the type that was started in 1986. You got 86 through, it was actually 83 when those were started, but they were modified in 86. So the 86 to 88 style has that FG, and the G does not have a crosslet. But it does have a wide AM. Then in 1989, they changed the design again, and the design they changed to, the G ended up having a little crosslet with a serif on the bottom right corner of the G. And that was another wide AM design. Well, that design ended up becoming the wide AM design to the close AM. So anything 1988 transitional with an 89 reverse, they're going to call it a wide AM, but there's a problem with that. The normal coin is also wide AM. So they basically had no idea what they were doing when they named that. And it was basically misnamed. Do I hunt other coins or just specialize in cents? Lincolns have my heart, mind you. The Lincoln cents are basically all I do. Probably 97, 98% of everything I have is Lincoln cents, and most of the knowledge I have is in Lincoln cents. So that's an answer to that question. Now, Michael Lewis, welcome to the stream. To change the subject about pennies, what is your take on continental currency? Actually, I don't know a lot about continental currency, although I do think that Franklin's idea of using leaves as a counterfeit deterrent on those notes was very forward-thinking, and I think it's still probably one of the best methods of being able to, for sure, know that you don't have a counterfeit note. That was really cool when they did that. With regard to collectability, possible counterfeits, the values or anything to that effect, I've always liked notes, especially the ones that were hand-signed. And all of the Continental notes were hand-signed. So that kind of helps a little bit in validating whether they're real or not. I don't know much about any counterfeits that could be out there or how to detect the counterfeits, but I do know that the original notes were on a very thick, almost like cardstock. They're not like they're not like thin printed notes. They're very interesting. But I don't know much of anything else about them, actually. I try to do the best I can to learn about anything I can learn about because I am incessant about learning. Does my partner that started Copper Coins with me regret it now? No, he doesn't. He never had any interest really in the Lincoln cents. His interest was more in large cents and in the half cents and 2-cent coins. And he may have continued on with that after he and I lost touch a few years after he signed the site over to me. But the site was mine as of, I think about 2001, I think is when he signed the paperwork over to me and ownership of the domains, and I took over the account. And he and I think we spoke to each other and kind of stayed together on some sort of a regular basis up until about 2006 or 7. And then I moved and we just kind of lost touch with one another, and we just really haven't talked in years. No bad blood or anything. Continental Coins. Okay. Yeah, Continental Currency specifically speaks to me of paper. But the Continental Coins, I like the Continental Coins, but most of them are so dog-eared at this point, they're very difficult to identify. I've seen a number of them that I could identify, but they weren't very easy to identify. If they're in better condition, they're worth quite a bit of money. We're talking $300 to $500 plus per coin, and those are the ones in really nice condition, and they're very nice. I also like Hard Times tokens and Condor tokens, but none of those have really piqued my interest to the point where I actually wanted to start collecting them. Yeah, all these answers that I'm giving you are testable questions later on, so just that prepare to take copious notes. When do I plan to do my next reveal this week? My next reveal is going to be tomorrow. Since I have an auction tomorrow evening, there will be an auction on this channel tomorrow evening. I'm going to do the remaining, what do I have? 3 reveals. I'm going to do the remaining 3 reveals during the day tomorrow. That's the only time I do have to do them, and I am working on getting packages done to ship out as well. So I'm going to I'm going to work through the idea of getting the shows done by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I've got a couple of hours to go down and cook and eat dinner, and then come back up and start my auction at 8 p.m. promptly 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow evening. Most of what's going to be in this week's auction is going to be rolls. A lot of bank wrap rolls, a lot of tubed rolls, and a couple of roll box offers. So be sure you show up for that. The newer shield pennies, I don't mind them. They're not bad. They're not great. My division is actually not with the shields and the memorials. My division's actually with the copper and the zinc. Once they went to the zinc cents in 1982, I think pretty much everything after that sort of lost part of my interest. I'm mostly interested in only the copper makes. But I guess the newer ones are okay. The shields don't bother me. I've kind of not really taken a whole lot of interest in the newer double dies anyway. But, if it comes around to reporting a double die on a shield cent, taking photographs of a shield cent, I have no problem with doing that. I did it with 2019s. I think I listed 8 different dies. Any other questions before I let you go for the evening? I mean, I'm here. Indian and a coin collector have 100 all U.S. and Canadian pennies from 60 to 2019, 60 to 2012, respectively, and says position. Very nice. I don't know how I got that you were an Indian. I guess Subhash is pretty much an Indian name, Subhash Sagar. I lived in a neighborhood that was populated mostly with Indian people during the time I lived in Cary. And Cary, North Carolina is a population central hub for technical people, and there are a lot of technical people from India who come here to work. And I got to know some Indians in the neighborhood, and I guess I'm familiar with their with their names and a little bit of the culture and things. I rented a house there, rented a house from a gentleman named Chintan. So I'm definitely familiar, let's just say, with the South Asian cultures. Party Pickle, did you give me a last question I did not see? Let me scroll back up just a little bit and see if I can see Party Pickle's last question here. You specialize in small mints. Do you also have a collection of other denominations, or do you stack precious metals? None of the above. I don't really have a collection at all. The only collection I would say that I do have is kind of like when you go to the doctor and they've got files full of medical records. Well, those medical records aren't something they're keeping because they like them or want to keep them. They're keeping them because they need them for their research or for what they do for a living. And that's why I have a collection of Lincoln cents. I have a collection of Lincoln cents so that I could look into it anytime I need to. And so that I can compare dies, compare die numbers, compare anything. I buy Lincoln cents to put in this collection because it's part of the professional, I would say the professional expense of the business. And I enjoy dealing with them, and I enjoy dealing in them, but I don't necessarily collect them. Not for the same reason that a collector would. Let's see. Next question looks like is going to be John. What is a holy grail of Lincoln cents? That really kind of depends on which way you look at it. If you look at it from a die variety hunter standpoint, I would probably say, I guess for me personally, the holy grail of Lincoln cents is going to turn out to be like the 1969 S double die. Very, very difficult, very strong, very famous, and very valuable. Now, if you look at just date and mint without regard to any of the varieties, I would probably say a 1926S in a full red MS65-66 condition. You're talking about a coin that could exceed $100,000 in value relatively soon. Now, if you're talking about by mintage, I mean, of course, we can go back to the proofs of the teens. A lot of those proof coins of the teens were minted in no more than 1,000 to 2,000 quantity. Yeah, but for me, it's the 29D. No, I don't think so. I pretty much follow the same mantra as the rest of the collectible organization, you might call it, the community. I don't have any special odd whims on anything, other than the idea that I think, it's actually for another show because I'm getting a little tired. But talking about it's going to end up turning into a book. But just safe to be known, the 1973 Lincoln Cent has a 1-year reverse type. That 1-year reverse type means that the initials are a lot larger than on 1972 and 1974 Lincoln Cents. So that 1 year, 1973, had a reverse that was only used for that 1 year. I have, since I was a child, been looking for a 1973 with a 72 or 74 reverse, or one of the 72s with a 73 reverse, or a 74 with a 73 reverse. Never found it. Not sure that it exists. If it does, I've never found it. Thank you, Cullen. You also have a Merry Christmas, and I expect to see you back soon because, well, now here we are. And Brian Allen, response, 1964 SMS is a close second to the 69S DDO. Yes. The only reason the 1964 SMS doesn't exceed the 1969S DDO in my own eyes is that to the untrained eye, the 64 SMS looks like a normal coin. Very difficult to distinguish that. Even among collectors, it's a slight bit difficult to distinguish that from the normal 1964 Lincoln Cents. However, the 69S DDO is very easy to distinguish from its normal partners. And yes, Party Pickle, the 69S is about, I'm going to say probably 100 times more difficult. 100 times more difficult than the 55 double die. Randy, 58 PFS 101. I knew that would come up. I wouldn't hold it over a 69S or a 55P because I don't think there's any more than two in existence, and I think those were nefariously produced. I don't think the 58 DDO is an actual regular cycle run double die that is a quote-unquote collectible coin. Right. I don't believe the 58 double die was made and released in bags like other coins and put in rolls and found by collectors and in cigarette packs and stuff like that, like the 55 double die. There's only been two of them ever found. Yes, exactly. It's basically nowhere. So I can't tell you the number of people who have sent pictures of 1943 copper-plated pennies asking if it was the big dog, and people sending pictures of normal 1958 Lincoln Cents asking if they were the big double die. If you have a 58 double die, you know it. There's absolutely no question about it. It's a very strong double die. But I've seen both coins that exist. I've seen both of the known coins, and while they are very impressive, knowing that only those two exist kind of puts a sour taste in my mouth about them. Jeff Dunn, there were 65, 66, and 67 SMS coins. The SMS coins from 65 to 67 look very much like proof coins. There was a test basically done in 1964 where there were a few dozen maybe 1964 SMS coins made. The 1964 SMS coins have a different design from the proof coins. If you have a proof coin to lay right next to pictures of an SMS coin, you can tell that the SMS coin was made with the regular mint state design, which has fatter features and more rounded letters, and then the proof coin has more squared off letters and thinner features. And so the 64 SMS coin was made with more or less mint state characteristics on the die, but the die was treated as a proof die. So it's It's got die scratches and such on it, but it's very, very sharp. Very nice and sharp looking, much more sharp than you would notice on a mint state coin. So, the Brian has one of the 64 SMS coins, and I had a chance to look at it up close with a loupe. And one of these days, I'll get a chance to put it under a microscope and actually photograph it through and throughout. But I believe that they should be relatively easy to pick apart from a 1964 SMS or a 64 mint state or a 64 proof if you study that sort of thing. But I don't think that you're just going to notice it, just on a whim. But yeah, Randy, the 64 SMS coins, it is believed that there were a dozen sets, and I believe they are all accounted for, and Brian can correct me on that if I am incorrect. But to my knowledge, there were only about 12 64 SMS Lincoln cents known. At most 20. And I know he has one of them. Held it in my hot little hand. I think they're all accounted for. I don't think you're ever going to find one and change. That's what Brian's saying, and I think he's absolutely correct on that. A girl blamed collectors while minting on the sly. It's possible. Well, thanks, Cadillac Joe. Come back, hang around on Tuesday evening. You don't have to buy anything to be a part of the auction and be a part of the chat there and watch what goes on. You can come and watch one of my auctions and see how it happens. All right, folks, I think I'm going to go ahead and tag out for the night. Grab myself one last cup of coffee and then go to bed. I know that sounds weird, but coffee doesn't have any waking effect on me. So I appreciate it, folks. You guys have a great night, and I will be right on the other side of the morning time, where we will get back into talking about more coins, going through a couple of reveals. I have a reveal of 1955S coming up next. Then a 57D, interesting one because it has a double die right on the end of the roll. And then the last one for the week, which we'll do last before we get into the auction tomorrow evening, is going to be a 1952S. I haven't picked out the rolls for this coming week yet, but we will do another 5 rolls this coming week, and they will be up for auction tomorrow evening. I appreciate it, folks. You guys have a great night, and I will talk to you right on the other side.